Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. I said I'd give you guys a lot more content now that I'm back home, and I'd figure I'd start off with something nice and easy. On the top 10 most iconic luxury watches of all time. Now, I value your opinions in the comments below, but please remember, this is just my opinion and my list of my top 10 most iconic luxury timepieces. Now, before we start, the customary wrist check. I am wearing the Breitling Chronomat Evolution on a brown Breitling calf strap. And this is a really nice piece I picked up about 5 years ago. It was my second luxury watch. Unfortunately, this one didn't make the list, but it wasn't too far off. So let's get started. And these are in no particular order. Number 1, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. This is a Gerald Genta design, and it was created, I don't remember the exact year, but I want to say the very early 70s, if not the late 60s. And it's one of the most iconic and recognizable timepieces out there. And it was actually the first ever steel luxury watch. What does that mean? Well, it was much more expensive than most steel watches. It was priced closer to gold pieces of the time, as it still is. And it was considered the first luxury sports watch, and it wasn't steel. Next up, we have one of the most recognizable and famous pilot watches of all time, and that is the Breitling Navtimer. Now, the Navtimer was originally created in the mid-50s, I believe. It could have been the early 60s, and is one of the most historic chronographs out there. Actually, the cosmonaut version, I believe, was one of the first watches in space, but not on the moon. That was another piece, the Omega Speedmaster. With its exemplary and archetypical slide rule bezel, the Navtimer has become one of the most recognizable watches out there. It's very complicated in its design. It's the antithesis of a German Flieger, which is pretty funny because they're both pilot watches and they're so different. But the Navtimer has become a classic, and it's recognizable from a mile away. Moving along, my third most iconic piece is the Patek Phillipe Calatrava, particularly the one with the hobnail bezel, which is the 3919 and the 5119. And it comes in multiple golds. As you guys can see, it's a really beautiful timepiece. That white plain dial, the Roman numerals, manual wind movement, and the iconic hobnail bezel that Patek Philippe is so well known for. And this is definitely going to be joining my collection at some point. I really love it, and I don't think there's a more elegant watch out there. And coming up next, another watch that definitely deserves to be here. It is the Omega Speedmaster Professional. YouTubers like to call it the man on the moon, which I never knew why. I don't even think it's the official name. But it was the first watch worn on the moon. Not the first watch in space, but the first watch worn on the moon. It's got an iconic manual wind chronograph with a Hesselite crystal. It's a Lemania-based movement. And this watch has been, pretty much not redesigned or nothing major since it first came out. And it's certainly one of the most beloved watches out there. Moving along, this one I'm sure everybody could guess was going to make the list, is the Rolex Submariner, the most iconic sports watch and probably the most iconic watch of all time. Worn by James Bond originally, tool watch originally, but now it's more of a desk diver. I mean, you have everybody from Wall Street execs to pro divers wearing it. It's very, very tough. and it holds its value really well. I don't think there's a more recognizable watch design, especially from the myriad of homages out there, but that's a different subject. I don't think there's a more recognizable watch design out there. Next up, we have another famous watch by Cartier, and that is the Santos. Now, the Santos was originally created in 1904 and has the honor of being supposedly, and I do think it is true, the first watch designed as a wristwatch. And this has, owes its roots to flight as well, because the Cartier Santos was invented for Alberto Santos Dumont by Louis Cartier. And Alberto Santos Dumont, the namesake of the watch, was an aviator. And the watch was specifically created for him. It's got all the Cartier DNA, it's the Roman numerals, the white dial, the exposed screws, and it can be had either on a bracelet, like the Santos Galbe, or on a leather strap in a larger size, like the Santos 100. To me, personally, there's no watch that shouts gentleman more than the Cartier Santos. I mean, it's a Playboy's watch. It reminds me of the south of France. It's got a little bit of an 80s vibe to it, but it's undeniably one of the most iconic watches of all time, in my opinion. Next up, we have a watch which I just made a video about, and I don't think it could be left out. That is the Rolex Datejust. What can be said? It's probably one of the most popular watches, if not the most popular luxury wristwatch out there. Oyster case, which is waterproof, the first watch with an automatically switching date mechanism. Originally 36 millimeters, now you can also get it in 41, but I am referring to the 36 for this video. And as I said, one of the most versatile watches out there. Can be worn for sport, can be worn for dress. The perfect one-piece collection. Now, moving along, we have another Cartier, and this one is the Cartier Tank. The famous Cartier watch designed for General Pershing in the famous World War I American tank general, and the design was based on a Renault tank. I mean, this has become one of the most classy and iconic dress watches out there, and I don't think anything exudes gentlemanliness, if that's even a word, and class like the Cartier Tank. It's small, it's understated, it shouts Cartier. I mean, everything from the Roman numerals to the shape, and it invented the category of the tank watch. Moving along, we have another famous chronograph, and that is the Tag Heuer, or simply the Heuer, Monaco. The Monaco was created in 1969 in honor of the Grand Prix, and was made famous by Steve McQueen wearing it in the, iconic movie Le Mans, made in 1971. This is a square case. It's very, very different, square crystal. Originally manually wound, there was nothing like it at the time. And, it became one of the most recognizable watches ever made. I do want one in my collection, but I can't really put my finger on why I like it so much. Theoretically, such a square watch should not wear well on a wrist, but you know what? That's simply not the case. The Monaco is one of the most handsome watches ever made. And last but not least, we have one of my personal favorites, and also one which I intend to add to the collection, and that is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso, the famous rectangular watch designed with the golden ratio, which was created for the British aristocracy who were playing polo in India. The famous flipping function was used to protect the watch crystal. And actually, a lot of royalty wear one today. I believe the Prince of Monaco still wears a Reverso, and it's still a popular watch to hand down as an heirloom because you can engrave many things like a family crest or your initials on the back. Anyway, guys, that was my list for the top 10 most iconic luxury wristwatches of all time. Let me know what you think. A lot of watches could have made it that didn't make it, and maybe you guys don't think that a couple of watches that I picked should have made it. But as I said, this list is subjective. Leave a comment below, let me know what you think, and please leave a like if you found this video enjoyable. It really does help and it motivates me. And, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. As I said, much more content coming. Thank you so much for sticking around for Federico Talks Watches. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.